Hello and welcome to my channel Happy Hours. In my last video I discussed about the Battle of Plassey and I continued till the introduction of Regulating Act 1773. I discussed about the reasons and the consequences of this false war. Yes, you have heard it right. I am calling it false war as it was a very small conflict but it had a massive consequences and how Sirajuddaulah was ditched by his own company or its own army. How Britishers became political power and the colonization started by capturing Bengal and it ended after 190 years when India got freedom in the year 1947. How drain of wealth started from Bengal and even British government became a part of this plunder. These were effects of dual government which was the experiment of Robert Clive and it ended in the year 1773 when the Regulating Act was passed by the British Parliament with certain conditions. I have discussed about few conditions in my last video and I'm going to discuss further about some more conditions. I'm going to continue further with the discussion of French advent in India, their conflict with English and its consequences. So what are we waiting for? Let's start with the Regulating Act which was passed in the year 1773. I have discussed about two conditions. The first condition was the court of proprietor and the court of director. And I have discussed there that these were the shareholder having the shareholding more than 500 pounds and they can constitute the court of proprietor and the court of proprietor will elect 24 court of directors. Those shareholders having the shareholding of more than 1000 pounds they can constitute the court of director. Now the duty of the court director was to monitor the company's administration in India as well as all kinds of opportunity appointments also. The second condition was that the governor of Bengal became the governor general of Bengal and the first governor general of Bengal was the Warren Hastings. He was very corrupt as we all know but he was having some supreme power and that was he was above the governor of Madras and the governor of Bombay. He has the superior power to take decisions about the war, peace treaty and even for the land revenue also. Next condition was that there was a council which was created to help the governor general and there were four members in this council. Next, there was complete ban on taking gift and bribes. A Supreme Court was also established at Calcutta. Alice Impe was the first Chief Justice. The jurisdiction of Supreme Court was all British and Indian subject. Within the company's territory, as we have mentioned, Bombay, Madras and Bengal was the company's territory. So the citizen of India and even the Britishers living in these territories can avail the facility of the Supreme Court. These are some important points under the Regulating Act 1773. To summarize all these things, we can understand one thing how the Plassey War started and how the Buxar started, and after that, how even the British captured India. After 140 years of East India Company, which was trying to capture the economic system in India, they ultimately happened in the year 1757 when the company transformed into the political power. Then they captured Bengal and the governor became the governor general. After the Battle of Plassey, Mir Zafar tried to please the English. They have transferred the trade of Bengal to British hand. Even after the battle of Buxar, the land revenues of Bengal, Odisha and Bihar was also handed over to the governor. Company was involved in many wars like Anglo French, Anglo Maratha and even Anglo Mysore, due to which they were having expenditure and these expenses were taken from Bengal. Even when they have to expand in India, that expense was also taken from Bengal. So we can say that huge transfer of commodity and wealth from Bengal to England happened. By this way, They were creating wealth in England, and ultimately, the wealth created in England was sufficient for the Industrial Revolution in England. And this happened also. And after that, how they captured the market of India also. So we can say that the beginning of the East India Company was based on economic empowerment, and gradually in 100 years 60% of India became British India, which can be summarized as British Empire, or we can say British colonial system. By the year 1608, they had the first factory in Surat. In 1770, they got the Farman from Jahangir to establish more factories in that region. In 1757, they had the War of Plassey and Bengal was captured. In 1765, they got the Diwani right also, means they are now collecting the revenue. In between 1608 and 1717, there was one more important incident, and that was the entrance of French in India. French East India Company came to India. Then they had the conflict with English, known as Anglo-French War, or we can say the Carnatic War. In 1759, that was the last battle, and after which French were out of India. Due to the Battle of Plassey, British became powerful, and they were having so much money, so much power, and this was what which helped them to empower over French even. Now let us understand about the French East India Company. It was a government company which was established during the time of King Louis XIV. His finance minister, Colbert, established this company and France started mercantilism. After the advent of Europeans in the year 1668, Francis Caron established a factory at Surat. Second factory was established at Masulipatam. They were doing the same as the British were doing, because we know that the first factory established by British was in Surat and the second was in the Masulipatam. In the year 1674, French captured Pondicherry and it was their main capital. It was with them till the year 1954. Gradually, Anglo-French conflict had started, which is also known as the Carnatic War. There were total 3 wars. France was the first country started interfering in the affairs of India. Indian state. Carnatic War was an extension of Austrian War of Succession, which took place in the year 1740 to 48. It leads to 7 years war from 1757 to 1768. Now we have to understand the first Carnatic War. It was the extension of Austrian War of Succession. As I have mentioned before, it was ambition of French governor Dupleix to defeat England. It was battle of supremacy between Madras and Pondicherry. Dupleix captured Madras, and Madras was a part of Carnatic. The Nawab of Carnatic started a war. It was under his power, and he was defeated in this war by the Dupleix. In the Battle of Saint Thome, France won in India, but they lost against England in America. They captured Fort Louis. Louis War. There was a treaty between England and France, which is known as the Treaty of Aix-la Chapelle. It is in France. They both restored, they captured territory. Means the Louis War was given back to France, whereas the Madras was given back to England. In this battle, French superiority in India was proved. France used navy to defeat England, and Dupleix proved extraordinary skill he is having. Now let us proceed to the Second Carnatic War. In the year 1748 to 1754. It started with a war of succession in Karnataka and Hyderabad. In Carnatic, there was a battle in between the Chanda Sahib and Anwaruddin. In Hyderabad, there was a war in between Muzaffar Jung and Nasir Jung. Chanda Sahib and Muzaffar Jung both had support of French, whereas the Anwaruddin and Nasir Jung were supported by English. French were led by Dupleix and English forces were led by Robert Clive. Dupleix defeated Anwaruddin in the Battle of St. Ambour. Anwaruddin died. Nasir Jung also lost his life. Means France got victory at both the places. But what happened in between? Son of Anwaruddin, Muhammad Ali, fled away to Trichy. Dupleix followed him. Muhammad Ali and lost the war at Trichy. Clive captured Carnatic again. By this, even though Dupleix won in the beginning, but he lost in the final. Finally, there was a Treaty of Pondicherry. Now English forced French to call back Dupleix. So Dupleix has to return to France. Now new governor was appointed by France, whose name was Goodale. Next and the final Carnatic War, which was in the year 1757 to 63. It was extension of 7 years war, and the governor from French side was Count de Lally, and Clive was appointed as the Bengal governor, so he was not here. So English forces were led by Ktic. Lally invaded over Madras, but Sir Ktic finally defeated French in the Battle of Vandivas in the year 1759, which is in Tamil Nadu. It was after the capture of Bengal by English in the year 1757. We can understand that in the 1757 they captured Bengal and they were having enough sufficient money. Even they were having extra army also. In the year 1763, there was a treaty between France and England, and this is known as Treaty of Paris. Now France was protected state in India, and all the French territory in India became protected state of English. Some territory like Pondicherry, Yemen, Karikal were returned to France without fortification. They can create forces and no fortification can be done. Means they cannot have their forces and even fortification cannot be done. So this were France. Now we have to understand what was the reason of defeat of France in all the war. First reason is that the French was a governmental company, but East India Company, English East India Company was a private firm. So they can take their own decision, whereas France was completely dependent on the government. Next reason is that the British had more naval and military strength as compared to that of France. Third reason is that the British also had control over multiple major posts such as Madras, Bombay and Calcutta. But French were having only Pondicherry. Last reason is that after winning the Battle of Plassey in the year 1757, the British got access to the Royal Treaty of Bengal, which stabilized their economic conditions. While on the other hand, French were running out of financial resources. By this, I am concluding my video. And if you find my video interesting, kindly like, share and subscribe. Thank you.